You are not tired because you are weak. You are tired because your mind has never been allowed to rest in one place long enough to become powerful. Every single day, your attention is being ripped apart. Notifications, messages, noise, opinions, endless scrolling, endless talking, endless reacting. You wake up already distracted, already behind, already consumed by a world that profits from keeping you unfocused. And the scariest part? You think this is normal. It's not. There was a version of you, younger, sharper, hungrier, who believed they were meant for more. Not average. Not surviving. Not watching other people win while you clap from the sidelines. You felt it in your chest. That quiet voice that said, "I'm capable of something extraordinary." So what happened? Life didn't defeat you. Distraction did. You didn't fail because you weren't smart enough. You failed because your energy was scattered across 1,000 meaningless things. Look around. Everyone is busy. Everyone is grinding. Everyone claims they're working hard. But very few people are actually doing deep work, the kind of work that changes lives, builds empires, and forges unbreakable confidence. Most people never go deep. They stay on the surface. Scrolling. Skimming. Starting. Quitting. Deep work is uncomfortable. It's silent. It's lonely. And that's exactly why it's powerful. Because the world is loud, and silence is now a competitive advantage. Think about this. If you locked yourself in a room for just 3 hours a day, no phone, no music, no notifications, and worked on the one thing that mattered most, who would you become in 1 year? Not motivation. Not hype. Transformation. But instead, most people trade their future for comfort. They trade mastery for entertainment. They trade potential for dopamine. And then they wonder why they feel empty, anxious, and behind. Here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. You don't need more time. You need more focus. You don't need more inspiration. You need more discipline. And you don't need to be everywhere. You need to go deep, violently deep, into one mission. Deep work is not just a productivity tool. It is a way of life. It is choosing to suffer now so you don't suffer forever. It is choosing boredom over regret. It is choosing silence over applause, because applause comes later. Every great achiever you admire disappeared at some point. They went quiet. They went dark. They stopped explaining. They stopped posting. They stopped reacting. And while the world was distracted, they were becoming dangerous. This is your wake-up call. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. Right now. Because potential is the most painful thing to waste. And deep work is the only thing strong enough to unlock it. From the moment you were young, you were fed a lie. A dangerous one. A comfortable one. A lie that sounds innocent but ruins lives quietly. They told you some people are just born different. Born smarter. Born gifted. Born talented. Born lucky. And if you weren't one of them, well, you were supposed to be realistic. So you watched. You admired. You compared. And slowly, without even noticing, you lowered your expectations of yourself. But here's the truth that almost no one has the courage to say. Talent is overrated. Focus is underrated. What you're seeing when someone dominates a field isn't magic. It isn't luck. It isn't genetics doing all the work. What you're seeing is the compound effect of deep, obsessive focus applied consistently over time. You don't lose to people who are more talented than you. You lose to people who can sit alone longer than you can. You lose to people who can concentrate when you get bored. You lose to people who don't need constant stimulation to keep going. Think about it. How many hours of real, uninterrupted, painful focus do you actually do in a day? Not being busy. Not checking things. Not half working with a phone in your hand. Real work. The kind where time disappears. The kind where your brain hurts. The kind where there's no instant reward. Most people can't do that for even 30 minutes. And that's why the gap between average and elite keeps getting wider. Because deep work isn't hard to understand, it's hard to tolerate. It demands something from you that modern life has trained you to avoid. Discomfort. When there's no music playing. When there's no notification lighting up your screen. When there's no one watching, liking, or praising you. Just you and the work. That's when excuses show up. That's when fear starts talking. That's when your mind looks for escape. And most people escape. They tell themselves, "I'll do it later. I'm not in the mood. I'm not inspired today. I'll start when things calm down." But things never calm down. The world will always try to steal your attention. Always. The people who win aren't waiting for perfect conditions. They create them. They protect their focus like their life depends on it, because in a way, it does. Here's something uncomfortable you need to hear. If you don't schedule time to go deep, your life will be scheduled by shallow things. Other people's priorities. Other people's emergencies. Other people's noise. And years later, you'll wonder where your potential went. Deep work is where confidence is built. Not fake confidence, earned confidence. When you know you've put in hours no one saw. When you know you've worked while others were distracted. When you know your progress isn't luck, it's earned. That kind of confidence can't be shaken. Talent gives you a head start. Deep work gives you dominance. And dominance doesn't come from doing more things. It comes from doing the right thing, deeply, repeatedly, relentlessly. So stop asking, "Am I talented enough?" That question is a trap. Ask instead, "Am I focused enough? Am I disciplined enough to go deep when it's uncomfortable? Am I brave enough to be bored?" Because the moment you commit to deep work, you step onto a path most people will never walk. And that's where your true potential is hiding. Deep work is not sitting at a desk and calling yourself productive. It's not opening a laptop and feeling busy. It's not replying fast, multitasking, or juggling 10 things at once. Deep work is something far more rare. And far more dangerous. Deep work is the ability to give your full attention to one hard thing for a long time without escape. No distractions. No shortcuts. No emotional comfort. Just sustained pressure. That's why most people avoid it, not consciously, but instinctively. Because deep work forces you to confront something terrifying, your limits. When you go deep, you can't hide behind noise. You can't blame anyone else. You can't pretend you're progressing when you're not. It's just you and the truth. And the truth is uncomfortable. The first 10 minutes feel fine. The next 20 minutes feel heavy. After that, your mind starts fighting back. You suddenly feel tired. You suddenly need water. You suddenly remember messages you need to check. You suddenly feel bored. That boredom, that resistance, that's the doorway. Most people turn back right there. They open their phone. They switch tasks. They dilute their focus. And they tell themselves they'll come back later. But later never builds anything great. Here's what no one tells you. Deep work feels like failure before it feels like progress. You'll feel slow. You'll feel stupid. You'll feel behind. Because growth doesn't feel like winning, it feels like struggle. And in a world addicted to instant gratification, struggle feels like something to avoid. That's why deep work is a filter. It filters out the impatient, the undisciplined, the comfort seekers. And it leaves behind a small group of people who quietly outgrow everyone else. Deep work is how average minds produce extraordinary results. Because success today doesn't belong to the most talented. It belongs to the most focused. Look at any field. The ones who rise aren't the loudest. They're the ones who can lock in when everyone else is scattered. While others react, they create. While others consume, they build. While others talk, they execute. Deep work is not glamorous. No one claps while you're doing it. No one sees the hours. No one understands the sacrifice. And that's why it works. Because when results finally show up, people think it happened overnight. They don't see the months of isolation, the mental exhaustion, the quiet discipline. They don't see the days you wanted to quit and didn't. Deep work changes how you think, how you see problems, how you see yourself. It rewires your brain to tolerate difficulty, to sit with complexity, to push past discomfort. And once you develop that ability, you become dangerous in any field. Because skills can be learned. Information is everywhere. But focus? That's rare. And rare things are valuable. If you can master deep work, you won't need motivation. You won't need hype. You won't need external validation. Your confidence will come from knowing something others don't. That while they were distracted, you were building something real. And that's why most people will never go deep. Because deep work demands a price most people aren't willing to pay. Silence, loneliness, discomfort, delayed gratification. But if you're willing to pay it, the rewards are unfair. You are not losing focus by accident. You are being trained to lose it. Every app on your phone was designed by teams of psychologists and engineers whose only job is to keep you scrolling, tapping, refreshing. Your distraction is not a flaw, it's a product. And it's working. You check your phone hundreds of times a day. Not because you need to, but because your brain has been rewired to crave novelty. Every notification is a hit. Every scroll is a reward. Every swipe is a tiny escape from discomfort. And slowly, without realizing it, your tolerance for depth disappears. You sit down to work, and 5 minutes in, you feel restless. You open a book, and your mind starts wandering. You try to think deeply, and your attention collapses. That's not laziness. That's conditioning. Your brain has been trained for speed, not depth. For stimulation, not focus. For reaction, not creation. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If you don't fight this war intentionally, you will lose it automatically. Because distraction doesn't just steal time. It steals identity. When you can't focus, you stop trusting yourself. When you stop trusting yourself, you play smaller. When you play smaller, your potential rots quietly. Distraction turns capable people into spectators. Think about how often you escape discomfort instead of facing it. The moment work gets hard, phone. The moment thinking gets heavy, scroll. The moment silence shows up, noise. But silence is where clarity lives. The problem isn't your phone itself. The problem is uncontrolled access. Every time you break focus, it costs you more than seconds. It costs momentum. It can take 20 to 30 minutes just to re-enter a deep state. And most people never stay focused long enough to even get there. So their days feel busy, but empty. Deep work requires violence. Not physical, mental. You have to attack distraction, not negotiate with it. You don't try to focus. You remove options. Phone out of the room. Notifications off. Doors closed. Boundaries set. Not because you're extreme, but because you're serious. Every high performer understands this. Your environment shapes your behavior more than willpower ever will. If your phone is in reach, your focus is already compromised. If noise is constant, depth is impossible. That's why deep work feels like rebellion. You are choosing to step out of the chaos. You are choosing boredom over stimulation. You are choosing long-term power over short-term pleasure. And it will feel uncomfortable at first. You'll feel anxious. You'll feel disconnected. You'll feel like you're missing out. You're not missing out. You're opting out. Opting out of mediocrity. opting out of constant reaction, opting out of a life where your attention is owned by everything except your goals. Every time you resist distraction, you reclaim a piece of yourself. And over time, those pieces add up to something dangerous. Control. Control over your mind. Control over your time. Control over your future. Most people will never win this war. Not because they can't, but because they won't even admit they're in one. But now you know. And once you see the enemy clearly, you can't unsee it. No one warns you about this part. They tell you to work hard. They tell you to stay focused. They tell you to chase your dreams. But they don't tell you what it costs. Deep work will separate you from people. Not dramatically. Not overnight. Quietly. While others are laughing, talking, hanging out, scrolling together. You're alone with your work. And at first, that loneliness feels heavy. You'll feel misunderstood. You'll feel distant. You'll feel like you're missing moments everyone else seems to enjoy. This is where most people quit. Not because the work is too hard, but because isolation is uncomfortable. Humans are wired for connection. And deep work demands long stretches without it. You stop replying instantly. You stop showing up everywhere. You stop being available all the time. And people notice. They may joke about it. They may question you. They may even guilt you. You've changed. You're always busy. Don't take life so seriously. But what they really mean is, you're no longer like us. And that's the moment you have to decide who you are becoming. Because you cannot go deep and stay familiar. You cannot chase greatness and stay comfortable. You cannot build something extraordinary while living an ordinary social rhythm. Deep work requires obsession. Not the unhealthy kind. The focused kind. The kind where your goal stays in your head even when you're resting. The kind where progress matters more than applause. The kind where you'd rather be improving than impressing. Obsession scares people. It reminds them of the discipline they avoid. The potential they ignored. The dreams they postponed. So they'll try to pull you back, not out of malice, but out of comfort. And you'll feel the pull. On lonely nights. On quiet weekends. When it feels like everyone else is living, and you're just working. But here's what you must understand. Loneliness is temporary. Results are permanent. Every hour you spend alone sharpening your mind, you're buying freedom you can't see yet. Freedom from financial stress. Freedom from self-doubt. Freedom from wondering what if. Deep work builds a relationship with yourself. You start trusting your discipline. You start respecting your word. You start seeing proof that you can sit in discomfort and survive it. That changes you. And one day, quietly, the loneliness flips. Because while others stayed social, you became skilled. While others stayed entertained, you became capable. While others stayed distracted, you became dangerous. And suddenly, people want to know how you did it. They call it luck. They call it timing. They call it talent. But you'll know the truth. It was the nights no one saw. The silence you endured. The focus you protected. Greatness doesn't come from crowds. It comes from rooms where no one is watching. Every great transformation happens in a dark room. Not literally, but symbolically. A place with no applause. No validation. No audience. Just pressure. This is the room most people avoid their entire lives. Because in this room, there's nowhere to hide. No one is watching you. No one is cheering for you. No one is coming to save you. It's just you, and the work you keep postponing. This is where deep work becomes more than productivity. It becomes identity. When you sit in that room long enough, something strange happens. The noise in your head gets louder before it gets quieter. Doubt shows up. Fear shows up. Old insecurities resurface. You start questioning yourself. Am I even good enough? Is this worth it? Why am I doing this? This is not weakness. This is initiation. Because before your mind gets stronger, it gets exposed. Most people run at this stage. They numb themselves. They distract themselves. They escape. But if you stay when it's boring, if you stay when it's painful, if you stay when progress feels invisible, you cross a line. And on the other side of that line, you're no longer the same person. Your mind adapts. Your tolerance expands. Your discipline hardens. You realize you don't need motivation. You don't need hype. You don't need someone to push you. You can sit with difficulty and keep going. That is power. Deep work in the darkroom teaches you patience. It teaches you precision. It teaches you restraint. You stop rushing. You stop chasing shortcuts. You stop needing instant results. You start trusting the process. And slowly, something dangerous forms inside you. Self-respect. Not the kind you post about. The kind you earn. When you know you showed up on days you wanted to quit. When you know you worked through confusion. When you know you didn't fold under pressure. That kind of self-respect changes how you walk, how you speak, how you decide. The dark room is where weak habits are burned away. Where excuses starve. Where comfort loses its grip. It's where boys become men. Where followers become leaders. Where potential becomes skill. Legends aren't built in public. They're built when no one is watching. And one day, when you finally step back into the light, people won't recognize you. They'll see confidence. They'll see clarity. They'll see results. But they won't see the darkroom. They won't see the hours you wrestled with your own mind. They won't see the boredom you endured. They won't see the pressure you survived. And that's fine. Because the darkroom wasn't meant to be seen. It was meant to change you. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid three things: pain, boredom, discipline. They design their days to escape them. They structure their lives around comfort. And without realizing it, they train themselves to be weak. Because here's the truth. What you avoid is exactly what could make you unstoppable. Pain is not your enemy. It's information. It tells you where growth is happening. It tells you where you're stretching beyond who you were yesterday. Deep work hurts because your brain is being forced to adapt, to slow down, to concentrate, to operate at a level it's not used to. That discomfort is strength being built. Boredom is even more powerful. In a world addicted to stimulation, the ability to stay bored and still work is a superpower. When you don't need constant excitement, you gain access to depth. Ideas get clearer. Thoughts get sharper. Connections form that never appear in chaos. Boredom is the gateway to mastery. And discipline? Discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. It's not heroic. It's not emotional. It's repetitive. Same time. Same effort. Same commitment. Even when nothing exciting happens. Most people quit here. Because discipline doesn't reward you immediately. It rewards you eventually. And eventually feels too far away for weak minds. But if you learn to embrace pain, sit with boredom, and respect discipline, you gain something rare. Consistency. And consistency compounds. One deep session doesn't change your life. 100 do. One focused week won't separate you. A year will. This is where the gap opens. While others chase motivation, you build systems. While others wait to feel ready, you start anyway. While others quit when it gets boring, you lean in. And slowly, almost invisibly, you become better than them. Not because you're special, but because you stayed when they left. Deep work trains you to do hard things without drama, without complaining, without needing external approval. That's not just productivity. That's character. And character outlasts talent every time. There comes a moment, quiet, subtle, when you realize something has changed. Not outside. Inside. Your habits are different. Your reactions are different. Your standards are higher. The things that once distracted you now feel empty. The excuses you used to accept now feel embarrassing. You haven't announced anything. You haven't posted about it. But you know. Deep work has rewired you. You no longer need chaos to feel alive. You no longer crave constant validation. You no longer waste energy explaining yourself. You move with intention. What once felt hard now feels normal. What once felt impossible now feels expected. And that's when people start to notice. They say you're different. They say you're intense. They say you're too serious. What they really mean is, you're no longer predictable. You don't fold under pressure. You don't panic in silence. You don't need noise to function. You've trained your mind to stay with difficulty, and that makes you rare. Deep work doesn't just improve your output. It changes your identity. You stop chasing outcomes and start respecting process. You stop comparing and start executing. You stop wishing and start building. And with that comes a dangerous confidence. Not arrogance. Certainty. Certainty that you can sit down and do the work even when it's uncomfortable. Certainty that you don't need permission to grow. Certainty that your future is being built daily, quietly, deliberately. Your old self wouldn't recognize this version of you. That version needed motivation. This version needs structure. That version avoided boredom. This version uses it. That version feared being alone. This version uses solitude as fuel. And once this shift happens, there's no going back. Because you've tasted control. Control over your attention. Control over your schedule. Control over your progress. Most people never experience this. They live reactive lives, always responding, never creating. But you stepped out. You chose depth in a shallow world. You chose silence in a loud culture. You chose effort over ease. And now you operate on a different frequency. Unrecognizable to others. Unstoppable to yourself. At first, no one notices. You've been working quietly. Improving slowly. Building patiently. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. And that's perfect. Because real results don't announce themselves. They arrive. One day, something clicks. Your work is sharper. Your thinking is faster. Your output is undeniable. Problems that used to overwhelm you now feel manageable. Challenges that scared you now excite you. And people start paying attention. Not because you talked about your discipline, but because they can see the evidence. Your confidence doesn't come from words. It comes from capability. You speak less. You explain less. You react less. Because you don't need to prove anything anymore. Deep work gives you leverage. Your skills stack. Your focus compounds. Your value increases. And suddenly, opportunities appear that weren't there before. Not by magic. By merit. This is the phase where people say, "Where did this come from?" They didn't see the months of silence. They didn't see the isolation. They didn't see the boring repetition. They only see the result. And results have a language everyone understands. Results don't argue. Results don't explain. Results don't beg for attention. They command it. This is why deep work is the ultimate equalizer. It doesn't care about your background. It doesn't care about your past. It doesn't care about excuses. It rewards only one thing. Focus applied consistently over time. And when results show up, something powerful happens internally. You stop doubting yourself. Because doubt can't survive evidence. You've seen what happens when you commit. You've lived the proof. And that changes how you approach everything. You don't rush. You don't panic. You don't fold under pressure. Because you know the formula now. Silence. Focus. Repetition. Depth. Again and again. This is where the world gets quiet around you. Not because you asked it to, but because it has nothing left to say. At some point, motivation fades. The music stops. The video ends. The world rushes back in. And what remains is a decision. Not a feeling. Not inspiration. A decision about who you are when no one is watching. Because deep work isn't something you do once. It's something you become. From this point forward, every day will offer you the same choice. Depth or distraction. Discipline or comfort. Silence or noise. No one will force you to choose right. No one will punish you for choosing wrong. That's what makes it powerful and dangerous. Most people will walk away from this moment unchanged. They'll feel something, and then return to the same habits. The same distractions. The same excuses. Not because they're bad people, but because transformation requires commitment, not emotion. But a few will do something different. A few will close the door. Silence the phone. Sit down. And go deep. Even when it's boring. Even when it's hard. Even when progress is invisible. Those people won't announce it. They won't post about it. They won't explain it. They'll just show up again and again. And months from now, they'll look back and realize something terrifying and beautiful. They're no longer the person they used to be. Their focus is stronger. Their standards are higher. Their confidence is grounded. They don't chase motivation, they create momentum. They don't wait for clarity, they build it through action. They understand now. Potential is not unlocked by wishing. It's unlocked by work done in silence. Deep work is choosing to suffer now, so you don't suffer forever. It's choosing mastery over mediocrity, purpose over pleasure, legacy over likes. And one day, quietly, you'll realize you've crossed a line. You can't go back to shallow living. You can't unsee the cost of distraction. You can't forget what discipline gave you. You've become someone who can sit alone, think deeply, and execute relentlessly. And in a world that's constantly distracted, that makes you unstoppable. So the question isn't, are you capable? You already are. The real question is, will you go deep? Or will you stay shallow with everyone else? The choice is yours.